The Dow's down more than 1,000 points as that global sell-off intensifies.
Experts call it a correction, but according to Donald Trump, stock market's crashing. I told you so. Kamala doesn't have a clue. Biden is sound asleep, all caused by inept U.S. leadership. But speaking of inept, during the Trump administration, stocks at one point were down by 33%. And during the Trump term, there were 5 daily drops where the market went down by more than 10%. That has not happened once during the Biden administration. On this day, stocks dropped about 3% and are down about 7% from the record high a few weeks ago. And as financial reporters are pointing out, the big picture still matters.
Just a few weeks ago, all the markets were at record highs, and it's important to think about what caused this. Overnight, Japan's Nikkei plunged 12%. That is its worst day since 1987. That's Black Monday's crash. And investors are responding to Friday's stock declines and weak jobs report here as well. Employers added just 114,000 jobs in July. That was well below the 185,000 forecast, and the unemployment rate jumped to 4.3%, which is still very low. That is historically low joblessness.
But it all translates into indications that the economy is no longer growing as quickly as it was earlier this year. The growth appears to be happening more slowly. So investors around the world are taking that into account. And when you add more serious financial troubles in Japan, as well as fears about a war between Israel and Iran, investors are largely pulling back. But there are still tools available for the U.S. Federal Reserve that can push and pull the U.S. economy wherever it might be needed. This includes interest rate cuts that are expected at the next Fed meeting in September.
So everything is always on the table, whether that's increases, cuts, et cetera. But the Fed's job is very straightforward. Maximize employment, stabilize prices, and maintain financial stability. That's what we're going to do. We're forward-looking about it. And so if the conditions collectively start coming in that on the through line, there's deterioration on any of those parts, we're going to fix it.
What the Fed cannot fix is Donald Trump's recklessness and narcissism. Trump's rooting against the U.S. economy and panicking his followers who have money in the market doesn't help anyone, except Donald Trump politically, and only for a little while until everybody realizes that this isn't the crash Donald Trump keeps predicting. In the meantime, Trump's actions are arguably unpatriotic and un-American. To deliberately try and spook the markets, even at the fringes, is despicable. But that is clearly Donald Trump's MO. And never mind the financial markets, Donald Trump keeps spooking his own political party as well. Recently, Trump held a rally in Georgia. This is a swing state that is now even more competitive thanks to Kamala Harris. Keep in mind, Donald Trump has been fighting for 3 years with popular Republican Governor Brian Kemp and the Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Trump's attacks arguably caused the loss of the 2020 Senate special election in Georgia that kept Democrats in control of the U.S. Senate. Trump again was responsible for the GOP Senate candidate's loss in 2022, and now Trump continues to attack Kemp and Raffensperger, once again dividing the Georgia GOP and turning off some of the state's Republican voters.
Your governor, Kemp, and Raffensperger are doing everything possible to make 2024 difficult for Republicans to win. What are they doing? I don't know. They got something in mind, you know. They got a little something in mind. Kemp is very bad for the Republican Party. Under these kinds of woke, radical left policies, Atlanta is like a killing field, and your governor ought to get off his and do something about it. He's a bad guy, he's a disloyal guy, and he's a very average governor. Little Brian Kemp, bad guy. But think of it, I got this guy, just think, and then that's it. I got this guy nominated, I then got him elected. Without me, he doesn't get nominated and he doesn't get elected. He's a bad guy, and he's not doing this country a good service. People are looking at Georgia with Fani and her lover and all of the other things, saying, what the hell is going on in Georgia?
Here was the astute reaction and analysis from MSNBC's Joe Scarborough.
This is so bad for him. It's so bad for his campaign. And I would just underline to everybody again, when I talk about what Brian Kemp has done, he not only won easily in the general election, he won a landslide in the GOP primary. Republicans like him there. Donald Trump's biggest problem was that a lot of Republicans stayed home in the northern suburbs of Atlanta. Republicans in the northern suburbs of Atlanta love Brian Kemp. Republicans that Donald Trump need the most love Brian Kemp. And he used his rally in Atlanta trashing their governor. And again, there's nothing logical about it. There's nothing rational about it. There's nothing sane about it.
Joe is right. Donald Trump is unhinged when he places his own narcissism and hurt feelings over the 2020 election ahead of the unity that Republicans will need in 2024. That's crazy. When Trump lashes out at Republican leaders that he will need this November, that is insane. And relatedly, when Trump lies about the stock market and tries to spook investors because Trump wants to get a short-term political victory on Truth Social, that is Looney Tunes. U.S. consumer confidence is a big driver of the overall economic and market performance in the United States. Yet Donald Trump wants to tear everything down just to promote himself. The problem for Trump is that Americans increasingly see through him and are tired of his antics and needless drama. And never mind ordinary Americans, market investors and experts are also ridiculing Donald Trump and noting that despite what Trump says, the markets are in the midst of an understandable course correction and not a major crash. The crash, they say, continues to be Donald Trump's credibility. By the way, Donald Trump is freaking out over being tagged by Democrats as weird.
Well, it's true. These guys are just weird. And it's, you know, they're running for He-Man Women Haters Club.
It's not just a weird style that he brings. It's that this leads to weird policies.
And by the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
In the wake of the relentless attacks and labeling, Donald Trump is now responding.
Well, they're the weird ones, and if you've ever seen her with the laugh and everything else, that's a weird deal going on there. They're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not.
Oh, really?
If there's a shark about 10 yards away, do I get electrocuted or do I go with the shark? I said, because I will take electrocution all day long. Despite the environmentalists that say how wonderful sharks are. You ever hear these people?
We do not like what has happened where we can't even go to Thanksgiving dinner with our uncle because you end up in some weird fight that is unnecessary.
If there's a shark about 10 yards away, do I get electrocuted or do I go with the shark?
Well, it's true. These guys are just weird.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Jeffrey English, who wrote, "Weird is really the nicest way to describe these dangerous people." I agree. I look forward to reading your comments about Donald Trump trying to panic the markets as his own volatility intensifies. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.